Hi, Annie. How are you doing? My name is Grace, and I'm going to be your nurse today.
Nice to meet you, Grace. I'm all right. I'm a little nervous to talk about the result of my husband and my carrier screening test. I want to know more about the risk of my husband and I both being carriers for sickle cell disease.
That makes total sense. Getting results for these types of tests can be nerve wracking, but I'm here to support you and talk through the meaning of these results. First off, I want to clarify, did you and your husband get the carrier testing in preparation for having children?
Yes, we don't currently have any children, but are hoping to have some soon. We were told that this is a great way to be prepared and make informed decision around our pregnancy before it occurs.
Absolutely. So, first off, an important thing to know about sickle cell disease, or SCD, is that it is most common in people with African ancestry or for people who have ancestry in other countries close to the equator. So, in the US, African Americans have about a 1 in 500 live births rate for SCD, but a 1 in 15 rate for being a carrier. Do you or your husband have African ancestry?
Not myself, but my husband does. So that makes even more sense for him to be a carrier. So anyways, what exactly is this disease? What make it genetic?
Well, SCD results from a mutated gene, specifically the HBB gene. If you can imagine some sort of code, such as a link to a website, having only one letter changed of the initial link will change what comes up. Either a completely different website will be shown or no website at all. Our genes are like these links, and for the important coding sections of our DNA, they are sensitive to very little changes occurring.
So how exactly is this different website occurring related to SCD?
Our genes code for specific proteins necessary for our bodily functions. If a link could code for the wrong website or no website at all, think of how a mutation in our genes could call for the wrong protein or no protein at all.
Okay, I definitely see how this could end up badly. Then how does this mess up protein result in such an intense disease?
Great question, Annie. The mutation affects a very important protein in our body called hemoglobin. Hemoglobin is primarily bound with our red blood cells, helping them do the very important task of carrying oxygen throughout our bodies. Just like the name states, this mutation results in hemoglobin molecules being made deformedly into skinny sickle shapes. These are called hemoglobin S molecules. This form of hemoglobin changes shape in response to low oxygen levels. Dehydration, strenuous exercise, and alcohol consumption can all result in low oxygen levels. When the hemoglobin changes into the sickle shape, the red blood cells also become stiffer and have difficulty flowing through blood vessels. The sickled cells then clump together and reduce blood flow, further lowering oxygen levels. Over time, the lack of oxygen damages tissues and organs. As more and more cells die due to lack of oxygen, organs can stop functioning.
Hmm, that sounds pretty awful. So how are you able to know if someone does have the SCD? How would I know if my child had it or not?
Well, fortunately, all newborn babies in the US are screened for sickle cell status at birth. The screening indicates how much abnormal hemoglobin is present in the blood. So, individuals with 80 to 90% abnormal hemoglobin receive a diagnosis of SCD. As sickle cell carriers, you and your husband have less than 40% abnormal hemoglobin, while unaffected people have less than 1% of hemoglobin S.
Hmm. That's good to know, but is there a way to find out for certain before birth? I'm not certain my husband and I would want to continue the pregnancy if we knew our child would have it. It's certainly something we will need to talk about.
That makes complete sense. It's a very challenging decision, but I will be here to guide you into making the decision that is best for you and your family by giving you all of the information. Furthermore, since you and your husband are both carriers, you're correct. You may want to test for SCE before birth. This can be done by taking a sample from the amniotic fluid.
That's great. We will definitely take advantage of that if we can manage it financially. So, hypothetically, what are the odds that our future child could actually get this disease?
SCD transmission is considered autosomal recessive, meaning you need 2 out of 2 hemoglobin alleles to be mutated. This is why you and your husband do not have the condition. You each only have one mutated allele. Your child will not have the condition unless he or she receives 2 mutated alleles. There is a 25% chance of that happening. However, there is a 50% chance that they will be a carrier. In that scenario, this can travel down generations of your family, and even a grandchild could end up with SCD if not your own child.
Oh, wow. I didn't think the possibility would be so high. That makes the decision to try to have children scarier than I ever imagined. What do you think? Is it possible for us to give our child a good life if that 25% risk did become reality? I would never want to give my child a bad life only full of suffering. It would break my heart.
I can't even imagine the struggle you're going through. What I can tell you is that people with SCD certainly have their struggles, but they can live really great lives as well. What may be an important deciding factor for you is that they do tend to have a shortened average life expectancy of 42 to 47 years, but the range is very wide. Some people may die during childhood, while others live into their 70s. However, maintaining therapy and lifestyle changes will be essential to help minimize symptoms.
Okay. What do treatment options look like? Is there a cure?
Sadly, there is not a cure yet, but gladly, technology is enhancing at an accelerated rate. There are many brilliant scientists working specifically to find a cure for SCD, and we've seen great results so far. Specifically, a technology called CRISPR is already being used on some SCD patients as part of clinical trials. One of the first ever people to have CRISPR therapy for SCD says she has been feeling better than she had in years, as cells with normal HBB genes were being put in her body and aims to duplicate and become more numerous than the cells that contained the mutated HBB gene.
That's amazing. At least there are so many people fighting this brutal disease and giving people like us some hope.
Exactly. Even if CRISPR wasn't available to your child yet, there are certainly other treatment options that might lessen the frequency and intensity of sickle cell crises. Unfortunately, some of them can be expensive, such as stem cell transplants, bone marrow transplants, and blood transfusions.
What are the major cheaper priority that would be made for keeping my child healthy if they had SCD?
There are a lot, so we'll send you home with an informative pamphlet so you can keep track and talk with your husband. However, eating a balanced diet and taking folic acid supplements will aid in the body in battling infection, since low oxygen and ischemia can put patients at higher risk of infections. Folic acid is crucial for lessening the effects of anemia.
Interesting. Any others recommendations?
Yes, also drinking a lot of water. Blood cells clump together more readily when the body's fluid levels are low. A sickle cell crisis may result from this. A minimum of 8 full glasses of water daily would be beneficial. Also, avoid extreme exercise, as I briefly mentioned earlier, because the body's supply of oxygen may decline and result in a sickle cell crisis. The body also needs plenty of sleep to relax and heal. Health and the body's capacity to fight infection are both enhanced by sleep. Finally, they should avoid things that could worsen the condition or spread infection. Tobacco, cocaine, methamphetamines, and alcohol are substances that can trigger a crisis.
What about all the struggle they might have with living a life harder than most other people? Seeing their friends be able to eat almost whatever they want, whenever they want, and playing outside until they are out of breath.
Honestly, joining a support group would be really helpful to them. As you're expressing, chronic illnesses can be really distressing. Support groups are incredibly beneficial. People who have sickle cell disease might learn coping mechanisms and feel understood by other people who suffer with the disease. Incredible friendships could even be built.
That's really put me at ease knowing there is a support out there for those who suffer from this. This is going to be a really challenging decision to reflect on. I will have to talk with my husband more about this and what this means for us going forward and wanting a children.
Absolutely. You can always bring him in to chat about this with me as well. I want to help support you through this the best I can.
Thank you so much for your help, Grace. This was a lot to take in, but I feel much more informed now. Like you said, it will take time to come to any decision, but I have the time to be careful. And I have resources such as prenatal testing and possibly abortion.
It's been my pleasure, Annie. Please call if you need anything, and good luck to you.